Network. It's our first football live stream of the 2023 season. It's going to be an online championship draft tonight in the NFFC, a beat Nelson Sousa draft. So that means it's me, Tom Kessenich. It's Darik Buchar down there in the right-hand corner. There he is. And Nelson Sousa, of course, from FTNFantasy.com, joining us. $250,000 grand prize on the line. Nelson, very happy to have you with us tonight. We're going to be analyzing all the picks. Now, we did not do this intentionally, Nelson, with you joining us tonight, but you do have the number one pick in this draft. I don't know how this works. Of course, we don't have any say in any of this. It's all computer program, but whatever. You got the number one pick. Of course, in most of the drafts in the online championship so far, it's been Justin Jefferson, I think, in every draft but one so far. I guess you could make us wait another couple of minutes, but do you know who your pick is going to be at the number one pick tonight? Will it be Jefferson? Will it be McCaffrey, somebody else? Or have you got it locked in already?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be different just to change it up, but I am going to go Jefferson tonight.
All right. So is he pretty much, in your opinion, the locked-in consensus pick in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, the Rams offense looked so bad last year, but like Cooper Kupp, if there wasn't so many question marks with like Stafford and that offensive line and everything, I'd probably say that Cooper Kupp would challenge Jefferson. But yeah, pretty much Jefferson's is a lock there, I think, this year.
Nelson, I mean, I know you play enough to maybe differentiate if you get enough number one picks.
So Darik, we've been these drafts already so far this year, and they've been going about a little over under 2 hours or so, maybe a little over 2 hours at times. But yeah, Jefferson pretty much off the top, McCaffrey, Chase, pretty much the top three. Is that what you're expecting to see tonight? Those three guys at the top of the draft tonight?
Yeah, I think Darik was asking about if I get enough number one picks, if I will change it up. Probably, his question was, if I'm worried about just overexposure to Jefferson. I probably would. I'd probably change it up with Jamar Chase and mix him in. But I'm not going to really mix in McCaffrey or any of those other running backs. I think this year most of my drafts are going to be wide receiver heavy.
All right, yeah, sounds good. So again, go ahead, Darik.
Oh, that's fine. So here's the draft has started, so we'll wait for Nelson to make his pick. He obviously said who he's going to do, so it probably won't take him all that long. And we've already had two picks go off. We've had Jefferson to Chase, followed by McCaffrey. So kind of nothing surprising there. I'm interested to see when the next running back comes off. I do think that we will see the who I think is going to be the next running back come off go one or two in some drafts.
And you know what we're seeing, for a while there, we did see Bijan Robinson go as a number two running back overall behind McCaffrey. But ever since Eckler re-signed with, I almost said San Diego, ever since Eckler re-signed with the Chargers, we are seeing Eckler bounce back up into that RB2 spot. Nelson, does that surprise you at all? Or do you think Eckler is going to settle in as RB2 in 2023 drafts?
He's been so good the last 2 years, and they've been using him around the goal line. I think, most players are going to be pretty comfortable with him that he's going to settle in as a top 5 pick. He's pretty much going to be locked in, I think.
Yeah. So, Nelson, you mentioned just a minute ago that a lot of your drafts are going to be wide receiver heavy to start. Do you subscribe to and let's maybe say it's 2023 and maybe you haven't done enough drafts yet, but the running back dead zone? If you do, do you know where it is this year yet, or do we need to see more drafts to figure it out?
I need to see more drafts. I've actually been in baseball mode this year, so I got a late start with football, so I need a couple of more drafts under my belt to get a good feel for just where the sweet spots and where kind of the dead zones are for running back. But I did do one of these just the other day, and I have a funny feeling that I'm going to end up with a lot of running backs in the 5th through 7th round. I kind of like some of those guys right now that where they're going. They could end up getting pushed up as the draft season moves on, but right now I think that's kind of a sweet spot to draft running back.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my approach. And again, we'll see what happens as we get deeper into the drafting season. But that's the approach. And I think I've talked to Darik about this as well on our Sirius show. That's the approach I want to go with too, is really hammer the wide receivers early and maybe get a top quarterback and then hit those running backs in the middle rounds, the 4 through 6, 7 area, because there are running backs in that range I like as well. And there's Bijan Robinson going off at 12, and we are seeing him going later and later, Darik, in these drafts. He went 13th overall in the OC I watched on Friday night, which was the latest he's gone in any OC draft all year. And so here he goes 12. So really in the span of just a few days, he's gone 13th and 12th overall, the latest in any OC draft, which to me is a gift. You're getting him at the end of round 1 at the turn there. That's an absolute gift in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I love it. And again, we're early still, so he's going to move around. He'll move back up and back down around. We'll see. Depends if obviously we get some injuries or any other news. Nelson, I want your thoughts on the QBs this year. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the draft champions or any of our best balls so far, but we got 3 quarterbacks going in the first round sometimes with Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts in whatever order. They go in different orders in all of them a lot of the times. Are you going to be on these guys early and often this year?
Yeah. I definitely noticed last year that the elite quarterbacks made such a difference on fantasy teams. And, you know, it was just 2 years ago for the last few years that we were saying how quarterback was super deep and you could wait on the Kirk Cousins and the Derek Carrs and all these other guys. But I'll tell you what, you know, the Mahomes, Josh Allen, Hurts, you know, those guys just they were such an edge for you last year on your fantasy teams that I think that might be the new trend, because last year I think we just saw some awful football out of some teams where the offense just couldn't move the ball. There was no creativity. So I think it is important this year to, you know, you don't have to take a quarterback in the first couple of rounds, but I think it's important to get one of those, like, you know, top 8 type quarterbacks.
I think so too. And there's Breece Hall, Nelson. Before we get your next pick, I do want to ask you about him. Is there any concern from you about a running back coming back from the first year back from that ACL? Historically, those running backs do not perform well. Really, there's been 2 guys in the last 30 running backs. We talked about this, Darik and I did on our Sirius show. Adrian Peterson, who's really a superhuman freak, and Jamal Charles. They're the only guys who've done it. I mean, do we expect Breece Hall to do it? Because you look at the ADP right here, everybody's expecting him to do it, but really nobody does it.
He's a fade for me this year. I actually, part of my process is that I usually fade the running back coming off ACL surgery, and then his second round ADP just kind of, you know, is the nail in the coffin. I'm not going to own any Breece Hall there.
Yeah.
Is there a spot where you're willing to? I mean, obviously there's a spot you're willing to take him at some point, but would that be 4th round, 5th round, or so far that it's not even going to matter?
I don't think it's going to matter, but I would probably say like 4th, 5th round would be kind of like the spot that I would consider him.
Yep.
I actually think it's kind of crazy that if I had to predict before these drafts started and we got into draft season, I would have predicted that Breece Hall's ADP would have been somewhere around the 4th or 5th round.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. All right, so we've got 2 teams right now that have gone wide receiver so far. Team number 2, of course, just goes with Chris Olave after Jamar Chase. Nelson's on the clock right now. He goes with Jalen Hurts. And Team 10 went Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown. So you go with the top quarterback there. The third one off the board, Mahomes goes in round 1, Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. So why Hurts there? Were you just, again, we just got done talking about taking a top quarterback. Were you feeling the need to get a stud there at the end of round 2?
Not a need, but I have Hurts at the top of my quarterback list. And I think he has a chance to be even better than he was last year. And that kind of just, I'm okay with, like I said, I'm comfortable this year drafting an early round quarterback because I like some of the players and how I can construct the teams later on in the draft. So I rather just get an edge at that position and then go from there.
One thing we're not seeing this year at all, Nelson, yet. I don't know, and it may have happened in some of our best ball drafts. I haven't looked at every single one of them, but the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes combo is going to seem pretty impossible to get this year. If you somehow fall into that, I think you got to. Again, well, it matters in the playoff rounds and all year how they do, but just to even have a team that ends up like that in one of these contests can be pretty special, don't you think?
Yeah, it's always been tricky the last couple of years to get to pair Mahomes with Kelce, but very doable because Kelce was going at the turn, and then Mahomes was going somewhere in the third, fourth round of these drafts, fifth round last year. So much easier. But this year, I mean, if Kelce's going to live, as a top 6 pick, and then Mahomes is going to be end of the first round, early second round, it's going to be tough to pull that off.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, DeAndre Hopkins hanging out there in the top 30. We don't know where he's going to land just yet, but obviously people hoping he's going to land in maybe Buffalo or Kansas City to team up. Obviously, Team 9 would love if he landed in Kansas City, get himself a Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins stack there. We'll see if that pans out for him. And Tony Pollard, Nelson, that's a guy I think is going to keep rising and rising. He goes there at 3-1, 25 overall. I really think Pollard. Now, there are rumors coming out that the Cowboys are going to sign Zeke Elliott later on as we get closer to the start of the season. So that may put a dent into Pollard's value a little bit, but I still think Pollard's going to rise as we get closer to our live events later in drafting season.
No, I agree. I like Pollard right now at that price. And like you said, I think as we get closer to the season, I think as long as the Cowboys don't go out and sign, a decent veteran running back, I think you're going to see Pollard. He's going to be second round, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was like late first round pick when the prime times came around.
You are on deck.
It's exactly what Derek and I were talking about on our Sirius show last week. Wouldn't shock me at all either. Now, Zeke Elliott could certainly put a dent into all that, but we'll see how that plays out.
All right. DJ Moore just went, 34th overall, end of the third round. I want to get Nelson's opinion on him after he picks. He's on deck here, so we'll let him think about that as he makes 2 picks. Team 2 is on the clock. Just went his third receiver overall. Now has Chase Olave and Deebo Samuel. Tom, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would have done that. I mean, without looking at the draft board to know what running backs are on the board, but those are 3 damn good ones. That's for sure. If you're gonna stack wide receivers, I certainly can't argue with Chase Olave and getting Deebo I love Deebo as a wide receiver 3 this year. I mean, I just think the value is off the charts. Deebo had a press conference today where he said he hated his season last year. He was overweight. The contract situation took its toll on him last year. So a motivated, angry Deebo Samuel, who you're getting in the 3rd or 4th round maybe this year in drafts, take advantage of it, people, because he's still Deebo Samuel, and I love the value on him this year.
Boy, I would love to look like an overweight Deebo Samuel, to be honest with you. So.
No kidding. If that's what Deebo Samuel was doing overweight last year, imagine what he's going to do in shape this year. You just got to stay healthy. All right, so Nelson, we'll let Nelson make his second pick there. Amari Cooper ends round 3 to Nelson. So he's got 2 wide receivers and Jalen Hurts. We'll let him make his first pick to kick off round 4.
Still only 1 tight end off the board. Kelce in the first. Four QBs.
Who decides to pick here?
Well, he obviously won't go QB here. So Jackson over Burrow. We're starting to see this happen a lot more. I mean, Burrow seemed like he was locked in at the number 4 for a while, but I'm starting to see Lamar kind of overtake him.
Lamar is creeping up for sure. And No mild spoiler alert, but we're going to talk about Lamar on the Serious Show tomorrow night, Derek. All right, so Nelson starting off with 3 wide receivers and Jalen Hurts. I love Jerry Jeudy, Nelson. You can talk about him, but Cooper and Jeudy with your 2 picks there. Give us a rundown on why you took those 2 guys.
It's actually a tricky spot for me. Like I said, this is only my second draft of the year, so usually it takes me a few drafts to get in a comfort zone and really know what I want to do in each round. I would probably say that there was a spot there that I haven't identified yet who the wide receivers are that I like. There was probably, I could make an argument for probably like 5 or 6 of them that I could have just taken as easily as Cooper and Jeudy. So I just went with those guys because I think that those guys are going to be the number one in their offense. And I think that although Russell Wilson looked pretty washed last year, I also think that he still has some juice left. And I think with Sean Payton there in Denver, that's going to make a huge difference offensively from what, that hot mess that they had going last year with Hackett.
Yeah, I mentioned before you picked Nelson about DJ Moore going 2 picks before your turns there. I want to get your thoughts on him really quick. Would you have considered him had he still been there? And if so, or even if not, give us your thoughts on DJ Moore for 2023. That's a guy I'm really having trouble trying to figure out.
I probably wouldn't have considered him. I think he's more of a late 4th round, early 5th round type of wide receiver. And my feeling is just that I think there's, a lot of targets there in Chicago with Claypool and Mooney and Kmet. They're going to want to run the ball. Justin Fields is going to run. So I don't expect like a heavy volume out of DJ Moore. So I do have him behind Cooper and Jeudy.
Okay.
All right, so we're talking about stacks or maybe looking at potential stacks. Team 2 breaks his wide receiver run there and takes Joe Burrow to team up with Jamar Chase. That could certainly prove profitable late in the season. We'll see how that plays out for him. But I like getting Burrow. You're talking about Lamar going ahead of Burrow. We don't question that. But the gift of that is you do get Joe Burrow falling to you a little bit. That's a nice pick for you if you're looking at a quarterback there in round 4.
I do believe that's the lowest he's gone in a RotoWire OC so far. We've had only 8 or 9. I think this is number 9, but I do believe that's the low that he's gone. Furthest he's fallen.
And I think team 8 is the first team with 3 running backs off the board as he grabs Aaron Jones there in round number 4. It's got Nick Chubb, of course, Josh Jacobs, and now Aaron Jones.
Time to switch gears for that team, but we'll see how Chubb is a guy. Nelson, give me your thoughts on Chubb this year too. I mean, we assume Kareem Hunt's not going to be there. We don't know if they're going to bring anything else in other than Jerome Ford's, I guess, the quote unquote backup at this point. Is there a chance we see Nick Chubb take on some of the Kareem Hunt role, or do you think Nick Chubb? We know what Nick Chubb is, and that as good as it is, it's not probably going to have much more of a ceiling.
Nick Chubb's a very good NFL running back, and I think it's a solid pick, especially if Kareem Hunt is not back in Cleveland. But, it's one of those situations, if they're not going to use Chubb in the passing game, then he's just never going to turn into like that elite, running back like a McCaffrey or Eckler. If he's not getting, catching passes. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him yet. I need to do more research on him, on whether they're looking to use him or in the passing game or not. But I think it's a fine pick where he goes right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's always a tough guy to evaluate because he is so damn good. But you get frustrated because he comes off the field, obviously, in passing situations. But you get into a draft and he's just hard to pass on because you know how talented he is, right? But then there's limitations to him. So he's a frustrating guy.
I mean, this year there's an interesting dynamic, with Kareem Hunt not signed. We'll have to see how that plays out. If they're gonna use one of the young guys, Jerome Ford's there, and I think they have a couple of other guys, or if we get later into camp and all of a sudden Hunt's not signed and they bring him back or whatever. So we'll have to see. But I think Chubb's ceiling is definitely, you can speculate on it if they don't sign a veteran back that can catch the ball.
I want to ask you about this guy. Derek and I were talking about him on the show last week. I love this guy, and I'm going to probably try to get as many shares as possible this year, and that's Calvin Ridley. I mean, I just love the guy, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to take another step forward with Doug Peterson in that offense this year. I think Ridley, without having to feel like he's got to be the guy, like he had to feel in Atlanta with Julio gone, I think mentally he's going to be more sharp than he was 2 years ago. I think admittedly he wasn't right, for whatever reasons. I just think the talent's going to win out. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to win out. And I love Ridley, and I love the value on Ridley. What are your thoughts about Ridley this year?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on the Jacksonville offense overall. They took a step forward last year, and I actually think that we haven't seen the best of them just yet. Lawrence is capable of being an elite quarterback that can support, a couple of guys in the passing game. So, Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Ingram, it's definitely an offense that's on the come for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Tom mentioned, we were talking about these guys on the series show. I'm actually on the Kirk wagon. I just like that he, up until tonight, he's kind of gone around or not a round and a half later, a half a round later. And I just like the fact that I saw him with Lawrence last year already. I have a very good understanding of what he's going to do there. But I agree with you guys both that this offense could be very, very fun. Too bad that our guy that we all like and love, actually, Travis Etienne, just seems like he's being kind of phased out of the offense already. Not necessarily phased out, but they bring in Bigsby. He was not very successful last year on goal line situation. Not at all, actually. They weren't using him in the passing game, which blows my mind because he was really, really good at Clemson, and he's got the same quarterback that he had while he was at Clemson. So I don't know, but I agree with you. Add Evan Ingram in and Zay Jones to the mix. It should be fun.
Yeah. And I'll say this, guys, is obviously I'm in Wisconsin. I'm a Packer guy. I'm not on Christian Watson where he's going with his ADP. I know he'll probably be the number one wide receiver in Green Bay. I know they got to throw the ball to somebody. I mean, Dubs is there as well, but I can't get on Watson at that ADP right now. I just can't. Sorry.
No, I agree. I like him, but I'm not going to get enough of him if that's where he's going to stick. I'm probably not going to get much of him at all. Feels more like a end of 6th round type of guy to me, not mid 5. So looks like I ain't going to end up much. So maybe I'll have to grab him in an auction or two just to make sure I have some shares.
Yeah, I can see what you guys are saying with Watson. Like, ideally, you want to get him like in the 7th, 8th round, so there's like there's some room for error in case like he kind of underperforms. So like 5th round feels like, you're taking the guy, you're expecting him to start in your lineup and contribute. And there is some question marks now that Rodgers is gone. Can Love get him the ball? But I don't know. Love came in that game for Rodgers last year, and Watson didn't miss a beat with Love. I want to say like he ended up with like a couple of touchdowns in that game with Love at quarterback. So there's still potential there, for Watson, because he did look like a freak show for a good stretch last year.
He's talented. I don't dispute that, but I'm just not big on the Packer offense this season. I think they're going to have a lot of growing pains. And again, I'm a guy who wanted Aaron Rodgers gone 2 years ago, so it's not like I'm pining for Aaron Rodgers. I just think they're going to have growing pains. So, and I'd rather.
We'll
go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just saying, we'll see. I'm not a Love guy, so he could prove me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking him ahead of Pittman or especially not Deontay Johnson. And I've got plenty of concerns with the Steelers offense too, but I'd much rather Deontay's super talented.
Right.
All right, so Nelson's on the clock here. We'll let him make his pick. And Darik, I think we talked about J.K. Dobbins maybe on the Sirius show. I love where Dobbins is going. I'll take shares of that in the 5th. Damian Pierce there. Sanders, who went earlier. I mean, this is a good spot for some, I think this is kind of what Nelson might have been talking about. We can get his thoughts on these guys after he picks. But, I mean, Sanders, Dobbins, Pierce here, that's a good group of running back talent in this range of rounded draft here, I think.
Yeah, it is. And again, I don't know that I want J.K. Dobbins as my number one, but I guess if you're building a team a certain way, that's just, I mean, like Nelson did, Jefferson, Hurts, Cooper, Judy, you get to the 5th round before you're able to take a running back at that point. So that's kind of a guy, like you mentioned, Miles Sanders. I'd even take a shot on Kenneth Walker there as well. Even though I do think Zach Charbonnet is going to have a nice role. I think a 5th round Kenneth Walker is a whole lot better than what we saw earlier in the year before the draft, and they took Charbonnet. So Nelson takes Traylon Burks with his last pick of the 5th round, and then Cam Akers. So go ahead, Nelson. Explain your 2 picks.
Yeah, I could have gone 2 running backs there because I did like, we talked about it, before the show, that the sweet spot I think is right here for running backs. So there was definitely a couple of them that I could have taken and pushed my flex or 4th wide receiver back. But I want to try a few of these drafts where I can get a running back that I feel like I can count on, and then just kind of punt my RB2 and end up just taking some high upside guys later in the draft. And then I feel like I can do a pretty good job in Fab and work the waiver wire and find a guy throughout the season.
Gotcha.
And of course, Cam Akers. We all know the deal with Cam Akers at this point. There's flashes. There's no consistency. If there's ever consistency with this guy, he's put up RB1 numbers, but he's also put up RB5 numbers, and that's been the problem. But I mean, he came out of the draft looking golden because the Rams did not really address the running back position at all. So we'll see what happens there. And that's,
well,
I guess we can kind of call what you're doing here, Nelson, the no running back strategy, I guess. So you want to kind of walk through your thoughts on this? The question from Griffin here in the chat.
Yeah, last year, a lot of my teams, and I know this is a new year, but last year, a lot of my teams that were 0 running back or hybrid running back, where, I took one that I could hang my hat on, and then I would, grab elite wide receivers with an elite quarterback and a decent tight end. Those were the teams that ended up doing very well. And, for whatever reason, I did a poor job, drafting early running back teams, and those teams did not do very well. So the teams where I went, running back, and then went wide receiver, again, in this format, NFFC, you have to start 3 wide receivers. So my big thing is that you're giving away, there's other teams that have an edge on you when you start, let's say 2 running backs to start your draft, and then your number 1 wide receiver is technically more of like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and then your 2nd and 3rd wide receiver are guys that are just kind of hit and miss each week. So for me, I rather just grab the number 1s on their offense, hopefully a decent offense, and get consistent production there. And what we've seen now the last few years is that a lot of NFL teams are just going with the running back by committee. There's only a handful of running backs that you can say that are like, just bell cows. They're just, coaches are going away from that. They want 2 or 3, running backs in there in the game. So you kind of have to go with the flow and draft it that way. So that's kind of my feeling on it.
Okay. Nelson, I want to ask you quick about tight ends. You don't have any as of yet. I feel like obviously I feel Travis Kelce's his own tier. I think most people probably do at this point. But there's so far 7 have gone, and so the next 6: Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle, Waller, Pitts, and then Dallas Goedert. I feel like those are the top 7, and I don't think I'd put anyone else even really close. If you don't end up with one of these guys, and I know you're not always a tight end guy. I know I've seen you push tight end way down before. This year, I feel like I'll probably, if I don't get one of these 7, I'm going to probably employ that strategy and try and find someone late. Give me your thoughts on tight end so far.
Yeah, tight end. I'm gonna own a little bit of Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle, Waller. I actually am pretty high on Waller, and I don't mind the 6th round there for him, but. Pretty much, I mean, kind of like what my MO is, and that's, if I don't get one of those guys, I'm going to push the tight end position back, and I'll just grab 2 of them, and I'll just try to make it work that way.
All right, so we are through round 6 here, beginning round 7, and Darik's rookie in Minnesota, Jordan Addison's off the board. A lot of expectations for him as he takes over as a number 2 wide receiver opposite Mr. Jefferson there in Minnesota. A lot of things.
And I think that's
Addison.
a slam dunk. I think he's a slam dunk number 2. He's well ahead of KJ Osborne at this point. He's going to surpass him quite easily. So he's going to give the Vikings, I hope, a lot more than Adam Thielen has the last couple of seasons.
I think just team context and and everything. I think Jordan Addison actually might be the number 1 rookie wide receiver. I think he might be in the best situation overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they really don't have much in the passing game. I mean, obviously, they got Jefferson, they got Hawkinson, and that's it. I mean, Darik and I have talked a lot about KJ Osborne. I mean, he's serviceable, and that's pretty much it.
He's a guy. I'm not even sure he's an NFL number 3. So I mean, he's just a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So they need help in a big way. So Addison should have no trouble, assuming he can get acclimated quickly. He should have no trouble getting targets in Minnesota.
Yep.
And now we're seeing some Buccaneers come off the board there, Mike Evans and Rachaad White. Of course, Evans falling because their quarterback situation is, and I'm being kind, deplorable. Which is unfortunate. Chris Godwin going in round 4. I can't get on that, Nelson. Godwin in the 4th. I love Chris Godwin. He's great. But if you're taking Mike Evans in the 7th round, I don't know how you can justify taking Chris Godwin in the 4th, because Evans is falling for a reason. Godwin should be falling for the same reason.
I mean, I think the thought is that obviously, Baker's a downgrade from Brady, but with Godwin working the middle of the field, he shouldn't see his targets fall off much. Baker, is a good enough quarterback to get him involved, whereas Evans, he works the boundary and outside the numbers, and he might have a little more difficult time getting the ball from Baker. So I don't know about the 3-round disparity there, but I understand why Godwin goes ahead of Evans.
Gotcha. So as it's coming back to Nelson to make his picks in the 7th and 8th round, I do want to say we are doing a $350 RotoWire Online Championship right now. If you are watching us live, you have a chance to get in one tonight still. We have one starting at 11:55 p.m. Eastern, so 8:55 if you're on the West Coast. It is half full right now. So we have about an hour and 20 minutes before that's starting. So anyone watching this and would like to compete in the same thing Nelson is right now, we have a draft half full, and hopefully it fills in about 80 minutes.
Put me in, Darik.
Okay.
There we go.
Look at that. So I just made a sale right on the air. Look at that.
5 spots left?
5 spots left now.
5 spots left. PlayNFFC.com. Sign up. Nelson's going to be doing back-to-back tonight. Can't beat that. There you go. $250,000 grand prize. Nelson may be so worn out from this draft, he's going to be easy to beat, folks. So there you go. You can crush Nelson because he's going to be worn out from this draft. Take him on in the 11:55 Eastern draft.
Are on deck.
That's how we do it here at the NFFC.
Love it.
Alexander Madison off the board, 82nd pick overall. I got to think that ADP starts climbing rapidly once Delvin Cook gets released. I don't think he's going to get traded. Nobody's going to trade for him at this point.
They're trying. They're trying as best as they can to get anything for him right now. But yeah, if they don't, he will be released.
I can't see how anybody trades for him at this point because everybody knows they're going to release him. Maybe somebody trades for him, but I don't know. And there's Gabe Davis, who last year everybody loved, and this year nobody loves. Except Team 2, of course, loves him enough to take him in the 7th round. Kadarius Toney, that's Derek's guy. And Isaiah Pacheco, that's my guy.
Pacheco's my guy, too.
Back-to-back Chiefs. Okay. Back-to-back Chiefs there, Nelson. I like that. You get some shares of the Chiefs offense. Walk us through those duo Chiefs picks there in 7 and 8 for you.
Well, I mean, obviously we got to see where Hopkins lands. And I've got, 2 players, Cooper and Toney, in Kansas City and Cleveland, where Hopkins has been rumored to possibly be a destination for him. So I figure, you know what? I can't get screwed, with the Hopkins signing on 2 of them. So I'm pretty high on Toney. I like his talent, and I think that he might have found the right place in Kansas City and a coach that knows how to utilize him. And hopefully, with some good leadership, they can keep his head on straight because he can, he can be a little bit of a screwball. But I think if he goes about his business and stays healthy, I think he's going to end up having a good year in Kansas City.
Yeah, I hope
Pacheco, so. It took a little bit to see him, come on during the season. But as the season moved on, McKinnon obviously was a big part of the game plan, and they used him quite a bit in the passing game. But Pacheco started getting some checkdowns in the passing game. And that was one of the things that Andy Reid, he didn't want the offense to be so predictable and Pacheco has decent hands. He can definitely catch the ball. So he didn't want to become so predictable that, okay, when Pacheco's in the game, it's, it's pretty much going to be a run, or Mahomes is looking to, throw deep or to Kelsey or whatever. So by checking down, defenses had to stay, kind of stay honest and keep, a linebacker or whatever on Pacheco. So based on what I saw, I saw a kid that, on a very good offense, could end up, in his second year, take off even further, because he's one of those guys that goes 0 to 60 pretty quickly, and he's always going 100 miles an hour. And I had quite a bit of Pacheco on teams, and my thing with him was watching the games was just like, man, just slow down, like find your holes, like wait, be patient, wait for those blocks, something's going to emerge. And instead he was just hitting the hole 100 miles an hour. And sometimes that's not a good way to go about it. So I think this year, I think he's got potential this year in his second year now.
Yep.
I think I tweeted that a bunch of times too about Pacheco. He ran like a madman. I mean, you admired the enthusiasm and how hard he played, but there were times he runs like he's on fire. It's like you said, calm down, let the holes develop, and you'll be much better for it. All right, so I was waiting for him to get picked. What are your thoughts about Deshaun Watson this year? Because I think there is a lot of excitement surrounding him. Last year, of course, we all know the issues there, but things were just a mess in Cleveland. From a fantasy perspective, are you feeling better about Deshaun Watson 1 year removed from everything that just went on, and just looking at everything from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, I got asked that question on the FTN Discord chat, and that was basically my answer, was that I think you're looking at a guy last year that, he was basically out of football for like a year and a half. And I didn't expect, I wasn't that high on him last year. But I think now, like, just getting used to the offense, getting used to everything, getting comfortable. He's got weapons in the passing game. I think he has the upside. It wasn't too long ago where, he was an up and coming quarterback, and he was a top fantasy quarterback that, we were drafting. So I think that's that's a good price for him. And I don't think 8th round, put it this way, 8th round, I don't think he's going to be a bust there. I think there's only upside there. I think that's kind of like his floor where he's getting drafted.
Yeah, I like that. Nelson, let me give you 2 very different strategy type questions. I think ones you can answer pretty quickly before it gets back down to your turn here. First, on quarterbacks, you took Jalen Hurts. Obviously, everyone's top 3 or 4 for very sure. Being that you took him so early, and it's so early in the drafting season, I mean, we're June 6th at this point. Are you, you don't actually have to tell us, I guess, but my question is, my thoughts are you probably won't back him up in the draft, being that you are a veteran and know what's going to be available on the free agent wire, but maybe touch on that. And then real quickly after that, your thoughts on defense. We're too early for people to be drafting defenses yet, but I know you have in the past have drafted defenses that you've really loved higher than most people. The Patriots come to mind in the last few years. So just give me your thoughts on the QB and then the defense real quick before your turn.
Yeah, so basically my strategy when it comes to quarterback, if I get one of those elite quarterbacks like, Allen, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Burrow, I'm never taking a second QB. I'm always looking to fill that bench spot with, handcuff type running back. That has potential if an injury arises. So I rather take more stabs at that position, and then when the bye week or whatever comes up during the season, then I'll figure out how to replace Hurts or that quarterback for that week. So that's basically my strategy. If I push quarterback back and I end up, let's say, with I mean, I don't want to name names right now because they're not off the board, but if I end up with a quarterback like, 8th, 9th, 10th round or later, then I do take 2 quarterbacks. And I try to find one has to have some upside. I don't care if it's a boom or bust pick and he has no floor, but as long as he's got a ceiling. And then the other guy is usually kind of just, solid guy. I might look at like week 1, week 2 and just see what the matchups are. And play matchups to start the year. So that's my quarterback strategy. And then your second question, what was it again?
Just on your thoughts on the defense. I've seen you push the defenses that you really like up higher than a lot of drafters will in this format. Like I said, the Patriots come to mind last few years. So just your quick thoughts on that before you pick.
Yeah. So with defense, what I've found through the years is I've decided to draft what I consider, a strong or elite defense. And the reason for that is because when we get to those rounds, like in the middle rounds, the player that I'm taking is no guarantee. Like, even though I might like the player, and if I'm looking at the player with rose-colored glasses, I can see how that player has, so much upside. But usually when I look back in my drafts, that player ends up being a 0. And I end up cutting him within the first couple of weeks. So for me, I look at it as I rather just get one of those, top defenses that's going to perform well each week and not have to worry about streaming. The second part of that is because I do so many teams, usually, I'm somewhere in the 150, range for teams. Then
you are on.
I'm looking at it as like, I don't want to be, Wednesday waiver wire, constantly looking to stream a defense. It's just more work for me. So why not get one of those elite defenses and just play them every week?
Gotcha.
You are up.
All right, as Nelson is on the clock here to make 2 more picks, I'm going to update real quick. We got only 3 spots left in the 11:55 Night Owl OC at this point. So if you want to get in quick. It will fill. We're down to 3 spots.
Everybody wants to take on a beat up Nelson Sousa in that 1155 draft. I'm always interested to see what people do after they take the elite Christian McCaffrey in round 1. And what Team 3 here did, I think, Darik, was pretty interesting, taking two of potentially top tight ends. Certainly Kyle Pitts was not a top tight end last year, but he goes with Hawkinson in the 4th and then Pitts in the 6th. I'm sure he probably thought the value there on Pitts was what was too tough to pass on. In hindsight, I think what I probably would have done is taken Trevor Lawrence there in the 4th to take a quarterback, a top quarterback. Or actually, he's got Herbert or Fields there instead of Pitts. I would have taken a top quarterback. I would have liked that build a little better. What are you thinking about that? And then we'll get Nelson's thoughts and his picks.
Well, the Hawkinson value I like a lot. So, I mean, I can't fault him for that pick over a quarterback at that point, even Trevor Lawrence at that point. The Pitts thing is I'm a Pitts guy. I still am. I'm going to be back in this year. So again, the Hawkinson Pitts is, if you're playing them both, one of them's your flex. You got one of them gets hurt. At least you got the other one. You got the bye weeks, obviously a couple of them. But it's he ended up finding a running back because he had McCaffrey. Then he gets Madison and Williams. I think you can make that work. So I don't mind that strategy. I mean, I wouldn't certainly do that on many teams, but a double tight end, I think that's value on both. I think we'll see by the end of the year that'll be value on both. So I'd like to see how it plays out. I'm okay with that. And then he did get Kirk Cousins to go with Hawkinson, so I like what he did there. All right, Nelson, you take AJ Dillon and Chigaquanko. Let's hear your thoughts.
My thoughts again. I pushed running back, so I gotta start taking a couple of guys that have potential to be RB1s, and Dillon was kind of like the draft sweetheart last year that a lot of he actually got pushed up, and a lot of people were really interested in him, including myself. And what I found was he was kind of like the guy that if you went 0 running back and you started wide receiver heavy, he was kind of like the guy that those drafters were pushing up and taking Dillon. He was not very good last year. I think a lot of people expected better, to put it nicely. But I think, he's one of those guys that he's an Aaron Jones injury away from, possibly, being kind of like a Derrick Henry type running back. So that's why, I like those type of scenarios, even though, and I can, in a pinch, I can play him like he's gonna get touches, every week. And then Okonkwo, he caught my eye last year. He's a guy that pick could easily fizzle, and he's not a starter for me during the year, but he also comes with a lot of upside. Very talented, and he kind of fits the profile of what I'm looking for in those type of players. Is I'm always looking for like the super athletic, freaky kind of player that has a ton of upside. And if he doesn't work out, I'm always going to be able to find a tight end that is startable throughout the year.
I want to thank Justin for giving us a compliment. I want to thank everybody who's tuning in tonight and chatting in our chat tonight. Appreciate all the comments and all the chat comments as well. So keep them coming. We'll do our best to answer as many questions that you guys are throwing at us throughout the draft. We've got a couple more rounds in before we call it a night and let Nelson finish up his draft here. And again, we will be doing a lot of these throughout the drafting season, pretty much one a week. Throughout. Now we're not going to do Jay Wimmers asking if we're going to do a night owl live stream. We're not doing a night owl. Some of us got to go to sleep, Jay. I'm sorry.
Is Jay going to give me a run for my money as far as number
on teams? He may. I think he's been in just about every one. He might have missed one the other night, but I think he's been in pretty much all of them, at least over half of them. So he's going to be with you tonight. He signed up again. He's in the one tonight with you. So
yeah, I've seen his name in a lot of signups. So he might give me a run for my money. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to stop.
Oh, nice. 2 spots left if anyone's looking now. We got 2 spots left. Starts about 70 minutes.
2 spots left for 11:55. We're also, we're waiting for the football guys as well. We're actually going to do a football guy. I think we're going to do a football guys live stream on Friday night is the plan for the football guys championship. I think it's going to be this Friday night, I believe, with myself and Greg and Sigmund Bloom from footballguys.com. So got a lot going on. So, oh, there you go, Nelson. Jay's going on vacation. So hope you have a good vacation coming up, Jay. So. Go somewhere fun.
When I go on vacation, it means more drafts.
More drafting, yeah. Nice. So, Nelson, let me ask you kind of I don't know if this is a good question or not, to be honest with you, but it is early in the drafting season. But are there any NFL teams this year that you're just really, really down on, and maybe fantasy-wise you're down? I know there's a price for every player on every team that's okay, but is there any team that you're willing to at least talk about at this point, or is it too early?
It's still early for me. I don't know if there's necessarily a team that I look at, on paper and say, I'm avoiding them totally. Even a team like Houston, like I feel like they got pieces there that can be valuable in fantasy. Trying to think of Carolina. I think they're doing some good things. I think that the wide receiver signings there were kind of, flew under the radar, but I think they're actually I think they're going to be pretty solid on offense. No, I mean, people probably want to get down on Washington just because of, the question mark at quarterback, but, McLaren and Jahan Dotson, that's a pretty good 1-2 there. Good O-line. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone right now that I'm like marking off my my sheet and want nothing to do with.
All right. And update, we are full. We just sold out the 11:55 night owl. So thanks for everyone that was listening here and joined. Thanks for everyone that was in the lobby and joined or saw us on Twitter. That's always a good way. Always a good way to see, what's filling and if we have certain promos. A lot of times we just do them on Twitter. Late night when I'm around and I'm working solo. A lot of times I'll just do stuff solo on Twitter. So always a good place to check. We're at the NFFC. So if you're looking and you're a Twitter person, check that out nightly.
Yep. All right, so some pretty talented players still hanging around out there. We don't know what to make of Odell Beckham just yet. We'll see what we get out of him in Baltimore coming off well over a year of an injury. Jerick McKinnon, like we were talking about earlier, what a force he was down the stretch for the Chiefs. Tyler Boyd, always reliable in PPR. David Njoku, he flashed at times for the Browns last year at tight end. So and Tua Tagovailoa. Tua certainly outperformed his ADP last year before the unfortunate concussion issues down the stretch, but he was a very valuable late round QB pick for a lot of people in fantasy a year ago. And real quick, Nelson, I know you're up real quick, but Damian Harris, how much of a threat do you see to him in Buffalo this season with James Cook? Because I know a lot of people want to get fired up about James Cook.
Yeah, I mean, he's a professional running back. He's going to get goal line carries. He's going to get some short yardage. That's probably, why they signed him. And I think James Cook, though, for fantasy, why, people are excited about him is because, Singletary's gone. And I think he takes over that, receiving role and being able to catch a few extra passes than he did last year. So I think, James Cook is going to have to really show off at the beginning of the year and in the preseason, or Harris is going to need he's going to need an injury to Harris for him to really realize his upside, his true ceiling.
Yeah.
All right, we'll let Nelson concentrate on a couple of picks. Tom, I'm looking over the draft board and I don't see anything real crazy other than I like Bijan Robinson falling to 12. I know what's happened lately, but that to me, and Breece Hall maybe going where he went in the second round. I don't see a lot of out of whack stuff here. Do you? Am I missing anything?
No, nothing that jumps out at me as being overly crazy. No, like we talked about earlier, Lamar's definitely moving up a little
Yeah.
bit. I think there's some juice to him at the moment, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him keep moving up. I think the vibes around him are very positive right. I think the vibes around Baltimore in general are very positive right now, and I'm on board with them too. All right, interesting pick there for Nelson, going with another tight end there, Dalton Schultz. But no, nothing, Derek, that I think is really outrageous in this draft as far as picks being shocking or anything like that. No,
We did have our first defense go kind of towards the tail end of the 11th round, the Philadelphia Eagles, and you pretty much see them or the 49ers pretty much going off as the first defense in every draft. 11th round is kind of pushing them. So that's I do like the Eagles as my number one defense this year. I'm not sure I could pull the trigger that high. I think there's some other players I would rather do some stuff with there. But all right, Nelson takes Dalton Schultz as a tight end behind a Conquo at this point, and then Chase Brown. Interesting pick. Talk, Nelson.
Yeah, with Schultz, not a sexy pick, but he went to Houston. I think that's actually a good spot for targets. So I think he's going to end up being pretty solid. And he was a guy I was envisioning that he was going to be going much earlier in drafts. So I actually think that's a fair price for him. And then with Chase Brown, he was actually, beside Bijan Robinson, he was my favorite running back in this draft. So we'll see. You know, I've had favorite running backs, before, and they've fizzled. But he reminds me of a guy that was a real pain in my ass because I liked him so much, and the talent just never he could never put it together. But he reminds me of Ryan Matthews. You remember Ryan Matthews?
Yes, of course.
In the day?
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I feel like he's got a similar slashing running style, can catch the ball, super athletic. He blew up the combine. He really did a good job. So I kind of like the landing spot for him. There was even questions like this offseason with like Mixon, right? Didn't he get into a little bit of trouble in stuff? So you never know if something comes from that, and then he gets put on the exempt list, and all of a sudden, Chase Brown is the number one there.
All right, I think we'll go through the end of this round here, Derek, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. But I think this went really well, and want to thank Nelson. Before we wrap things up, Nelson, why don't you let folks know what you got going on there over at FTN Fantasy? You got anything special coming up, or just let folks know what you got going on for certainly for the upcoming season?
Yeah, so at FTN now, I have my fade list and rankings posted on there, and obviously, if you subscribe to my high stakes package, you have access to me 24/7 on the Discord chat, just to talk about draft strategy, trades during the season, waiver wire questions, starting lineup questions. That's pretty much, what I have going on there at FTN. Like I said, it's a great package. If you can afford it, it's $199. I think it's, very reasonable considering the time commitment that I have to put in and I'm committed. Like I look at it as, listen, I'm doing like 150 plus teams every year. So the advice I'm giving you is no different than what I would do for my own teams. And I would like to think that I've won more money than lost money. So, it's kind of one of those situations where I'm a guy that, puts my money where my mouth is. And, that's the advice that you're getting.
Absolutely. Right. Great stuff from Nelson Sousa over there. Check out what they got going there, ftnfantasy.com. It is absolutely great stuff. Great contest. We love working with everybody there. Baseball and football, top of the line stuff in both sports, NFFC, NFBC. We love working with all those guys.
For sure.
And it's been a lot of fun tonight. Like I said, we're going to be doing these pretty much every week throughout the drafting season. So want to thank everybody who checked it all out tonight. Keep checking it out. Like Henry Mudo, said earlier, smash that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Make sure you check out all the content there. We're going to have interviews as well, not just these live drafts throughout the drafting season, but Greg will be doing a lot of interviews as well with a lot of our top players. So check those out as well. Darik, you got any final thoughts before we say goodnight to everybody?
No, I don't think so. I think you guys covered. I just want to thank Nelson. We'll definitely have Nelson back again. Certainly probably a couple times for the end of the season, and his FTN buddies as well. Again, thanks for everybody for tuning in. And these RotoWires are every night. Football guys are every night. Cut lines every night. So we got something for everybody at playnffc.com. So come on and check us out.
Absolutely. PlayNFFC.com. You can sign up for all our drafts, our live events in Las Vegas and New York. This is our 20th anniversary season. It's going to be huge. Nelson, of course, just said he's been dialed into baseball. So that was our 20th anniversary season in baseball. We had a great time with our live events. So we're going to do it all up for football as well. So check it all out. PlayNFFC.com. Sign up for a draft. The entry fees start as low as $25. You can't beat that. Check it all out. Sign up. Join us for a draft. Get into one starting tomorrow and have a good time with us this year. So again, for Nelson, for Darik, for myself, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and get into a draft and have a good time with us this year. Good night, everybody.